Oh yes.
Why are you ignoring my antics? Now, as the boss here, right? As the tyrannical capitalist of the show, why are you ignoring my antics?
I don't know. I don't know who. What is
You,
what
you know which one of you said it. You know which one of you said it. Which
I,
why?
I can't even hear anything. I'm temporarily deaf.
I am a lovable scamp and
Don't you hear like
a
don't you hear
dashing
like
rogue.
it sounds
Good
like a
evening,
cat talking.
gentlemen.
We're talking to cats.
Good evening.
Why do you guys do this to me? Why I put you on my show because I need content, and this is how you repay me.
Good kitty.
Well,
This isn't
I've
nice.
been practicing some of my own wellness advice. What can I say?
I'm sorry. I gotta keep it real. I gotta keep it real, and that means
Well,
disregarding Dan.
should I just play the audio from the episode up to this point into the microphone again and just let an infinite loop occur?
It
Would that be like a great that I think that would be like a fun troll, right?
It's
would be
I am tiger, king
yeah,
of
weird
sight.
take.
Yeah, I think I should.
I,
Wait, they demonetize you for swearing?
They do.
Cocksuckers. What the fuck?
And we're demonetized.
Oh,
Oh
shit. Well,
man,
my bad.
True is here from the beginning. I
Yeah.
thought she was
Holy
working.
shit.
I thought she was working at the sperm extractor factory today.
Well, I
Wow.
am until, like, I am until like 2 o'clock in the fucking morning or some shit, according to them. But in reality, I am going to that cool McDonald's where all the teenagers work, and they're mean to that round white lady that's racist and mean to them.
Okay, that's based.
Yeah.
That's like a thing you should do.
That's gonna be my Friday night routine. Is that right around the time y'all start, I'm just gonna just not even clock out and just drive to this McDonald's and eat some cheeseburgers. And,
Just get
I mean,
paid for it. Just get,
yeah, like shit. Okay, good.
yeah.
It's the way radio. Okay,
Hey,
so
that's
yeah,
the
there's
hey,
no way they can.
that's the 45 approach. Get some hamburgers, eat them at work.
Yeah.
I'm honestly like,
They're very good. They're very tasty. I love the burgers. They're so big. Look at these little. They call them cheeseburgers, but they should be called them cheese mountains. They're so
I mean,
big.
it's a tight labor market. I mean, I'm gonna have to start. If they don't, I'm supposed to get day shift next month, and if I don't, I'm just gonna start looking.
holla holla.
You know how funny it was to me that that they told these motherfuckers they was gonna have a presidential dinner and they show up at a McDonald's.
The fancy
Hey,
hamburger.
what don't you guys like about the Big Macs? Is there something wrong with the Big Macs? I'll take them back and have them give us the quarter pounders.
Shit.
Haven't you?
Curve a little bit.
You haven't
That
lived
sauce,
until you've had a
that
land,
sauce,
sea, and air from McDonald's. It's amazing. You
that
have to
sauce,
try it.
and that little it's that sauce and that little half patty they put in there of like bread. Like what the fuck is that?
You have to try it. What you have to do is you take the Big Mac and then you put a McChicken on it, and then you put a fish fillet on it, and then you eat it. It's divine. I don't know what everybody was
You're
mad at
gonna
me.
make me pimp myself out for food. Like you need to bring something better to the table.
What is
I mean, we wouldn't have got steak with Obama, but at least we would have maybe got like something that requires a fork.
Right.
Yeah, it's just here's the thing, here's the thing. It's just I like their big burgers. Their big burgers are so good. I like a big juicy burger. I take the meat and I put it in my mouth. I like the meat in my mouth.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know
Oh,
why.
he's
God.
all about that. He's all about that mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's a good
It's all
mouthfeel. I
about the
take I
mouth.
take the burger. It has a good mouthfeel. I put it in my mouth. I chew it. I have my knife and fork to cut the bites because so big. The burgers are so big. They're huge. The people are saying they're massive. People are saying there's a lot of massive meat on that table, and that's what I
They're-
said.
He's like McDonald's the person.
Yeah, Ronald and I go way back. We're good friends. I said to Ronald, these are huge burgers. I said, where's your friend Grimace? I want to hang out. I had White House security heightened for that dinner because I didn't want the Hamburglar coming and get all the burgers. That was our meat for our mouths.
Sir, we have a national security threat. Oh no, it's the hamburger again? Yeah, it's the hamburger.
Hamburglar Marxist icon.
Yeah, he is. He is a Marxist. You know who else? Actually,
Our burgers.
Robble.
funny
shall
enough.
be our battle cry.
Funny enough, I know a couple of Marxist icons myself. The first one is, of course, longtime contributor Michael Jordan Peterson.
What's up, everybody?
God damn.
Yeah,
Sharpen them guillotines. It's time to go.
that's right. And the second person I'm thinking of is I'm thinking of Mr. Cenk Engels.
Self-hating capitalist? Question mark.
Yeah.
Marxist icon? Second?
Yeah.
Question mark.
In the annals of Marxism, you will be known as the capitalist cuck.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's my preferred title.
We're getting that put on your tombstone, by the way. Well,
Okay.
I'm also joined by and admiring fellow Marxist icon, the True Horror.
What's up? What's up? Like, I can't believe I'm here already. I mean, I don't know why I didn't figure this out before. I probably just do this whole show with this job. If that motherfucker doesn't make that delivery, I'll probably just stay on the clock after. Fuck it, you know. I
Excellent.
can't
not?
believe I didn't figure this out before.
True Marxist.
That's it. That's what you do. Get paid. And
I'm at a fast food restaurant and podcasting right now. I mean,
you're winning. You really are. You know who else is winning? And there's another Marxist icon. It's Juniper Nest.
Always winning.
Hustle.
Thank you, Dan.
Excellent.
Tiger blood.
And the last and not least, certainly is the second son of Trier, the man who waves his arms like you just don't care, the all-American Hebrew, the Uber Jew, the one, the only, Dan Cohen. Hi. How y'all doing?
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Dan. Well,
Keeping it real.
Oh yeah.
That's right. I might go back to the name game monikers if I
Yeah.
can get rhymes
Did
for
you-
everybody.
take the title of the Uber Jew.
Yeah.
officially now?
I am currently in litigation to seize the title of Great American Hebrew.
Great American Hebrew.
hmm And I've almost negotiated the right.
The Great American Hebrew. Jay Cohen is there.
Yeah.
you know what? You know what's funny? Any other McDonald's that I've been in lately will just have like generic television on, like CNN or something, right?
hmm
But then this one, Fox News, just saw Charlie Kirk's weird face on the little screen.
Oh, dude.
It must be that gal that runs this place, man. It's got
Is that guy with that little face inside the big face?
Yes.
he has small face.
Yes.
Do they have a big enough screen TV to encompass his head, or they just have him super zoomed in?
No, it's just kind of zoomed up on the lamprey mouth with the rows of teeth.
Mm.
Oh, does he look like that thing in that one Doctor Who episode where it's just like the skin stretched out on the frame
Yeah.
that they gotta keep spraying with like the lotion or whatever.
But imagine
They put the lotion
imagine
on
taking
his skin.
Cassandra and wrapping her around a beach ball, though.
Yeah.
Sir, we need the zoom lens. Zoom.
Zoom out, I said. Damn it, zoom out. Zoom. Can we get one of those NASA telescopes and aim it at his face? Oh, he's got soulless eyes like a doll. This is horrible. My God.
Sir,
And the mouth to face size ratio. This is not right.
Do you remember back before like when they were still showing things in regular def and you had a high def TV and like the aspect ratio would be wrong?
Yeah.
And there were a couple ways you could tell the TV to respond to it, and one of them was Zoom. I hated people that put it on Zoom. But if you did that, would that make his head look normal? And is that the problem?
Ooh, it
Even
might.
Watching on standard definition televisions
His aspect
because
ratio.
they've got their little converter for the digital converter for their
I think
antenna.
Nest takes Fox News for a lot of older listeners. I'm sure they're listening to this.
I hope they are. I want them. I would love to have Jesse Waters be like, today I was hitting my wife, and then she had the audacity to run away, and when she tripped down the stairs. I didn't push her. She tripped into the laptop, and on came this terrible leftist program, a bunch of communists. So I hit her again. I mean, I didn't. I did. Which one am
Waters,
You know, it would
Is
really
Waters
help
the
if
one
I didn't just yank my headset out midstream.
is Waters the one that like hid in the bushes at the U.S.-Mexico border and like screamed at people for like giving somebody a bottle of water or whatever? Wasn't that his routine?
Jesse Waters screams at people on the border. Justin Timberlake.
That sounds very Fox News like. Yeah, that's very.
Jesse Waters hides in the bushes and attempts a kidnapping. Justin Timberlake. Wow, that got hits. That's terrifying. Okay, Jesse Waters stalks U.S. Mexico border. Justin Timberlake.
You just really want that sexy back, my dude.
It's one of my favorite songs. Blame anyone.
I can't lie, me too. You know, that Timbaland production is on point.
By the way, this is the face that women crave right here.
R.I.P. King.
I'm going to drop that in Twitter chat for the real fans. You should follow us at Twitter so you can get into that chat. But look at that face. That is just...
Look at that face.
It's in the Discord chat as well. That is, whoa, boy, that's a beautiful man right there. I can't see why women wouldn't think that he's up to felonious activities when he's around. I can't see why. He's so trustworthy. He's getting... Fortunately, do you know Jesse Waters is 23 and he looks like that. So you tell me why he looks like a runny dinosaur. Like...
He's 23?
Yeah, he looks like a wax candle of a dinosaur that has been lit on fire and is now just beginning to melt in the face.
What the fuck? Dude, can they not get the good adrenochrome? Are they on, like, bootleg adrenochrome?
Adrenochrome, that's what they're on. Adrenochrome. Adrenochrome, it's knockoff.
They're on the great...
He looked like he had his face...
It's the Chinese brand.
Yeah. No, like we had to pick up the Vietnamese version of adrenochrome because we couldn't afford it. Also, by the way, have you seen Greg Abbott? Greg Abbott looks like Howard the Duck. That's going on Twitter. Not even stopping a second.
Howard the Duck.
Well, any reference to Howard the Duck is good.
Okay. Yeah, but no. If I mean, I'll drop it. You tell me. You look in the Discord chat and you tell me if that is not a runny, melty dinosaur candle talking to Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm right, I'm right. That's all I'm saying. I'm not right about everything, but I am right about this. You know what I'm saying?
Wrong.
No lies detected.
Yeah.
He looked like the kind of person that walks into the room after you leave to smell your farts.
Yeah, he's like you exit the bathroom as he goes in, he's like, nice. Like you hear it's audible. He can't help himself. Let's see, Jesse Waters stalks woman at Denny's. Metallica. All right.
I feel like Howard the Duck had more front hair. You'd have to make Howard the Duck somehow balding to make it work.
Well, clearly, yeah, he's losing the hair. The feathers are falling out, man. Male pattern baldness is real.
Yeah. I do see what you mean though, because he's got like a very bird-like feel, like a very ducky thing with the face and the white hair.
He's making a duck face in that.
He is a duck. He is clearly looking ducky. Well, he's not just that. His eyebrows kind of like look like feathers, and his hair is kind of plumed out. You know, he's trying to attract a bird. He's a bird of paradise.
It's like a more butch version of the bird lady from Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
I put in Jesse Waters raped and murdered a 9-year-old, and the first thing is from WAPO. After arrest and rape of 10-year-old girl, Fox News host shifts focus. And it's like
What the fuck?
it's not. They're not actually saying it's him, but woo boy,
That could have been better written.
that is one of those perfect Google moments.
They were not
like
trying
someone-
to say it.
Yeah, they're like they really want you to think that.
I see in this bird lady you talking about. I'm gonna post it.
I can't stop laughing because that one got a good hit. Like I've just been increasingly upping the ante, and that one is like, yeah, we got a match. Don't worry, we got one for you. We got a real ass one. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a child. I know.
Pull back.
This is the same game that you play with the Japanese porn, isn't it?
No, that I'm literally just upping my collection.
Oh, okay. It
Yeah.
sounds like you're trying to do like a Rule 34 thing. Like they can't possibly have that.
Yeah,
No, he likes
that
to-
can't get a
What
hit.
comes up,
He
but
likes,
like
to,
for
he likes to
Google
take the
searches-
literal titles. He likes to look at the literal titles and be like, "Oh, how much more English can I make this?"
Yeah. I don't do anything but just copy and paste, my friend. I let them speak for themselves. Hashtag
Well,
believe all Japanese.
Just run them through
You're-
auto translate.
I just want to let you know I deeply respect your role as senior Japanese porn trend analyst.
He's a
Jesse Waters skins a homeless man alive to feed his blood ritual. Did not return any hits.
Literal blood libel.
Yeah. Let's see. Jesse Waters consumes bath salt
See, I can
and
see it.
devours a human face.
Don't
Funny enough,
Flocka as an alternate search term.
what's that?
Flocka.
Flocka. Oh my God! Is that the bag thing with the poop?
No,
What?
that was the thing. I think it was like a regionalized version of bath salt, but it was very popular down in Florida. And I remember one day I think we got like a new projector or something at work, and I was like
Okay.
showing people like YouTube videos of people on Flocka.
That's badass. So I put in Jesse Waters consumes bath salts and devours a human face. And instead of going, there's no good results, it goes images for Jesse Waters consumes bath salt.
It's the end that you should be worried about.
I mean, a bath salts thing is sketchy territory, but I made sure 100% it wasn't going
No
to go
space
well.
heating.
And Google's like, bro, we got you. We got you on this one. It's funny. Sam Bankman-Fried is in one of these pictures, which is terrifying. Portland lunatic eats old man Minnie Madoff visited White House 4 times. Woo, weird sets. And then there's just this angry dude here who like clearly is constipated and should not be going live. That guy. I don't know who that is, but he is mad.
Ooh, yeah.
He's upset
My
about
dude-
something.
my
He needs
dude
a
is-
He looks like a child who has put on a tubular suit. It's like a child's
like-
face.
He
Yeah,
looked like a robot. He looked like a constipated Terminator.
the constipatinator.
With
Yeah.
like Will, with like Will, with
He's
like
got
Will
some
Smith ears.
turtle to his face though,
He does.
where it's like kind of pointy and smooth at the same time.
It's
A
all.
Robo Turtle.
I'm
Like,
doing that.
I could
Hold
totally
on.
see that head poking up from like, next to some cattails or something, and like trying to bite my finger off.
I'm trying to picture
Shut
what that guy's voice sounds like.
Shout out to the nakedist in the chat
Sounds
who
like
points out that
constipation.
the nakedist in the chat who very accurately points out that Jesse Waters looks like one of the Puttermans, which is the plastic-faced advertising people from the Duracell commercials.
Yeah.
Here,
I don't-
hang on.
I got to be honest with you, chat. I'm wholly unconcerned that the guy who ate the other guy's face wasn't on bath salts because I'm trying to specifically accuse Jesse Waters of being on bath salts and eating a guy's face. I
Jesse
think.
Waters does give that vibe. He totally looks like some like demon, like some fucking sleep paralysis demon from like an '80s movie.
Yeah.
Don't he? Just squint a
Yeah.
little bit. Squint a little bit. He looked like a fucking serial killer from a movie in like '87.
Okay.
It's like, oh, surprise, it was him. No, not surprised.
Right.
I'm gonna play another fun game with Discord chat. Is that a Fox News columnist or somebody who's in a Naughty America video?
Oh,
Oh, I'm gonna say Fox
that is
News.
impossible, bro.
I'm
I
gonna
can't- I
say,
can't.
why not both?
Sure, I'm gonna. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we were generally saying Fox News columnist. All right, I'm gonna send one more picture. All right. Now,
All right.
do you keep that? Do you keep
I would
that?
say-
Grace is writing the shit out of this.
I would say
Oh.
it's a Fox
No,
News host because
okay,
the eye on the
so
right is
if
slightly
it's-
wonky.
Yeah, 100% Fox News host.
If it's
They
either
always have that
or,
weird.
the second one is the Fox News.
They're the same
Is it-
woman.
Because if they're important, they're gonna have to like look at you, while he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Like she can't even really look at you.
Okay. So you're saying like she's keeping an eye on the door for her husband while she's
Yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay.
Like she cleaned up nicely, but still she was never really hot. You
Yeah.
can see like the makeup and stuff. Yeah, it's very Fox News. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna do the same thing with this
That's
one
first-
right now.
That first one though, that one got me. That
They-
could have went either way.
They're the same woman.
It's the same. Oh, jeez.
That's why I was
Because like on top she looks like a porn star. On the second one she looks like a toe.
I don't.
That third
This
one looks
is-
photoshopped. She looked photoshopped.
This one is not.
That's not even a
blonde.
real person. Are you kidding
This
me?
one is not blonde, so therefore is a Naughty America.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not-
So we're locking in Naughty America for this one.
Yeah.
Here's the second one. Now tell me, yes or no?
That's Naughty America.
Okay, that's
I'm going
not.
with Naughty
No,
America. I'm going with Naughty America. Oh, it's the suit. It's the pants. It's the suit with the pants.
Yep.
That's what it is. She's like imitating the Hillary thing.
That's Naughty America.
That it's not. It's actually
It
not.
looks like Naughty. I looks like Naughty America because of the hair. You're like, what the fuck?
Believe it
Are
or
you
not,
talking about the second one?
the second one.
No, that's Fox because she's
Wait, this isn't the same person. No
That's,
way.
These three are all the same woman. Yes.
Oh Jesus.
That's right. That's right. That's all. That's none of that is Naughty America. None of it.
None of it.
None
Not
of it
even
is
one.
Brazzers.
Jesus. Jeez.
Here's the thing. The second photo, the reason I said that was a Fox one
Yeah.
was because they made her look older,
Mm-hmm.
but still sexy.
Yes. See, that's what tripped the boys up. The trip the boys up was that we went older and sexy. So it was clearly like the first one was early in her career. You can tell by the sepia tone. Now, and then the third one, you're like, well, clearly she was like 22 when she started. Like you're like, yeah. No, that's just a fun game I like to play sometimes. Fox News skank or porn star. Who deserves respect? Yeah, I said it. Conservatives don't deserve respect. That's it. That one. So let's make sure to quote me on Twitter
they're
for
not
that
even-
one.
They're not even human.
Oh yeah, definitely get those quotes going.
That's a pretty right wing thing to say, right? Like maybe you can get
Yeah.
on Post Left Watch, the very very cool Twitter account that tracks all the right wing things that the Post Left does.
You should smash conservatives like the roaches they are.
Yeah.
There you go. Hell yeah. Come on, Post Left Watch, you fucking pussy. The fuck, man.
But I
Put
can't
us
tell
on
the
the
difference between both sides. Like I can't.
You
What
were
we-
really trying to start that beef.
What do we gotta say, motherfucker?
Don't at me, bro.
What is this nonsense?
I added him a bunch of times. This fucking bitch ass just fucking hasn't said shit.
Sorry, I get oddly mean when you start talking about the conservatives.
Okay, hold on. Tell me what's going on in this picture. Describe it. Wrong answers only.
Oh, wrong answers? I mean, the right answer is it looks like she's trying to do kente class. So anything other than that. You guys like Obama, right? Let's put it in like I guess African colors. I don't what colors are African?
Oh Lord.
Obama's face?
I'm
Is
one
that
of
what
you
that is?
now. I'm taking a kneel.
Oh my God, she's another Cornell alumni too. Oh, this conspiracy goes viral. So Essie Cupp and Justin Cass, aka Virgil, Texas, all went to Cornell, and look what's happening.
Oh,
Ooh,
I don't know
interesting.
what that.
All I
Okay.
see is that pearl necklace. She's pearl necklacing.
that's it. All right. All right. Now we promised to make sure to set the world on fire tonight. So let's be gender critical.
Oh, we get to self slam the turfs. Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah, something like that. So
So are we? Did you say we're playing gender critical?
no, we're we had brought up earlier in the production chat. We had brought up earlier about the fact that it's weird that all the TERFs and the anti-trans people are like focus on trans women, and then like weirdly enough, never ever talk about trans men.
Oh
Ever.
yeah, yeah.
Ever.
It's because they want those white babies.
Okay, well I'll tell you what, I will weigh in last. You all have the floor. Let's discuss. Why is it that J.K. Rowling is obsessed with trans women and couldn't give a flying F less about the existence of trans men, let alone taking the time to attack them, just not caring?
Well,
I think it's because
Oh,
I think it's because trans men can still produce white babies for them.
yeah, it's true.
That is my prevailing theory.
That is true. They were still womb havers. That's true.
Mm-hmm. It's internalized. They don't even try at this point. They're just like, oh yeah, okay, okay, yeah, I go with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I
They're not.
kind of feel like most TERFs would rather pretend that they don't exist, because then they would have to look at the criticism of, like, well, what if penis envy is real? Like, let's go back to Freud.
Yeah.
And no one wants to open up that can of worms. So, like, let's just pretend that doesn't happen. And also, we want to gatekeep our class, our classification of who counts and who doesn't.
I would say, like, yeah, that's pretty dead on. Yeah.
Is it because they're not? Is it because they're not super horny for the trans men?
Well, I think that's it too. Like, okay, if a white straight cis Republican turf couple walks up to me, and the guy is like, "I hate trans women. Ooh, gross. They're not good." And then the lady says, "Yeah, I hate them too." Fucking
Oh
asshole.
yeah. They think it's a trap, right? They
Then
they're completely all switcheroo on them.
what happens
That's
instantly
right.
in my mind?
They're afraid.
What happens instantly in my mind is I just visualize like 8 hours previous at like 2 a.m, like the dude is sitting there at the computer on chickswithdicks.com or whatever, and like his wife comes in and then she's like, "What are you looking at?" And he's like, "Nothing. I hate this. I'm looking at this because I hate these people."
And then he pull up a different app, and it's definitely a chick with a dick.
Yeah, it's just that they want everything. That's what them to the point of being alive is, that you just get everything. So a trans
Yeah,
woman,
maybe they're doing that thing where they get the person from the community to try to say that we're not against them.
right? And even though being trans is not new, but to them it is, right? Like, so they're bored of obsessing and masturbating about everything else. So that's their new thing, and then they're ashamed about it, and then they're sad that the thing that they're into now is like bad or whatever, and then like their spouse or whoever is mad at them for that. So
Wait,
all of that hatred.
is it because lesbians automatically get a pass?
Well, you got to be lipstick lesbian.
Like they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can go with the lesbians, I guess.
You got to be.
They're not like ah.
You got to be like 1990s like Showtime softcore lesbians, like
But
in
what
order
I'm
to get a.
saying,
Only
what I'm saying is they don't even see them as men.
actively lesbianing when there's a man watching.
Yeah, they
Yes,
don't
yes, that's
they
the
don't,
only
they don't even
reason
see
you're
'em-
lesbian.
What it is. They just don't see them as men. That's what it is. They're just like, oh,
Yeah.
your parts are women, so use the women. Because their rules are very rigid. I mean, it doesn't allow for any flexibility. Like, oh, okay, well, what if she doesn't have, you know what I mean? X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 3, 2, 3, like all that stuff. Is she still a woman? And they're like, they're blaring over. You're asking too many questions, requiring too much thought. They're just like, I'm trapped.
Oh fuck! Look
Why
at
are
that
you
shit.
making me think about what I'm fucking?
Right. For all I
Look at
care,
this
it's
shit.
gonna be a dinosaur.
I haven't finished. I haven't finished eating these fucking cheeseburgers. I pulled back up to this son of a bitch, and this asshole is here. He's gonna make fucking delivery. I'll be back in about
Sir,
15 minutes.
are you
Okay.
fucking those cheeseburgers?
I might actually be able to do what is supposed to happen at this job in a reasonable time frame, and
God
then be.
damn.
I know it's really strange. I'll be back. Hang on.
Okay.
Thanks
All
for the
right.
burger.
So I think we all touched on some great points there, right? I'm gonna try to give you Dan Cohen's take on the matter because, of course, if I pose a question, I clearly at least had a take, right?
Obviously.
I think.
Right.
I think if I was willing to brave the waters on such a controversial topic, I think I was willing to do this. So if we start by kind of eyeballing what their rhetoric is, right? That biology is sacrosanct and it's one-to-one equivalent to gender, right? If we eyeball that a little bit and push on it, we find pretty quickly, I think, that it starts to collapse a little bit, right? We have non-traditional presentations of those things that are supposed to be sacrosanct. You're supposed to have hypermasculinity, and you're supposed to have a kind of hyperfemininity, right? What they conceptually boil down to is the reproductive act ultimately, right? The role in reproduction. Are you a fertilizer or are you a carrier functionally? This is clearly what their obsession is, and this ties into their obsession that is against abortion. Their calls for multiple or more millions of Americans to be born to compete with other countries, right, in populations. So they're clearly in a situation where their psychosis involves pretty heavily reproduction, right? And
Sounds like I'm in the right direction.
yeah, and this mirrors their Japanese counterparts. This is a far right phenomena all over the world. There is an anti-emigration and an anti-immigration sentiment globally, and there is an obsession with the term breeding. That's relatively new to our shores, but that's not really all that new. That's been an obsession in Asian nations and their far right for about 30 years now, and with with immigration in
Really
Latin
not new.
America, they've been pretty anti-immigration. They're anti-people leaving. They don't want them going. They don't want to lose the tax base. They don't want to lose the labor. They don't want the market price of labor to rise because there's less people available. That works both ways. We tend to think of it in the America-centric term, where it is a problem of people coming in. They see it as a problem of people leaving. They're losing nationals. They're losing a tax base. They're losing a power base for their conservative parties. So this is this is mirrored all over the world. This is not unique.
Yeah.
Those are all developments under capitalism, objectification, and exaggeration. Yeah. Chat. What else we got here? Idea for MH4 free college. Well, Jay paid for it. They have to pay as well. So much more private.
You got other people to have others, right?
Yeah. You have to have people to reproduce people, and you have to have people to reproduce culture. And there's a fear. There is a fear of the liberal reaction to the family, because the liberal reaction to the liberal reaction to institutions is unsurprising. right? It's unsurprising. It's to torch the sons of bitches. I don't think,
Scapegoats.
yeah, I don't really think it is that all that surprising to say that the people who are obsessed with non-government organizations and removing power from government, i.e., eroding institutions, look at marriage as one of those institutions to erode. Right? I don't think that's really all that, like, that's not a wild statement. I think that's just a logical extension of it. Whenever there's an institution, the liberals feel it is necessary to erode it and thrust people naked without context onto the market, right? If we look back to, and this is kind of important, if we look back to old feminism, so we have this. Okay, let me kneecap that. Let me cap that one there for a second, right? So what we have is the idea that conservatives are reacting directly to the erosion of institutions that is done by liberals, and liberals will fucking scream about that one. But let's be real. That's like that was their big thing. That was their big idea after the '60s. Like, well, if we just torch the institutions, they'll clearly, Americans' institutions are racist. They'll go away, right? So if we erase them, they'll go away. If we put them in the market clearly isn't bigoted, which is a gross misunderstanding of history. But the conservative cultural reaction is mortification, because they're all about that kind of eternalist culture of locking things up and not letting things change, reproducing what we have and nothing else. All right? If we put a pin on that, we then look at what feminism actually meant prior to a Marxist analysis of feminism, and frankly post, right? If we look at the original suffragette movement, the idea proposed by who's that asshole? Who's that suffragette asshole? Son of a bitch.
There's several. So
Yeah.
Who's the big one? Give me the big one.
Susan B. Anthony?
Yeah, that's her. That's the broad. All right, so Susan B. Anthony's notion of feminism was that white women should be in class parity with their male peers, and specifically exist to deny those same rights to blacks and other races. That was her original. That's the original feminist proposition: is that white women are equal to their white male peers and should have the exact same rights and the exact same treatment, and not be subordinate in any form to them. Okay. So
We don't like the latter because we don't like what rung we're on.
Correct. That's their original. And I want to stress here that feminism comes with a big asterisk, because there's a form of feminism that rocks ass, but it is not the original version. The liberal solution to that was simply to continue it on, but kind of throw like this anti-racist bone to it, right? That we'll let the other women in, but they should be equal to their male peers. But equality from that kind of perspective is the equality of the lowest common denominator. So
Not
whatever
equality at all. Surprise.
surprise, it's class. It's class-based discrimination at that point. We're going to eliminate the gender
Class war.
discrimination. Exactly.
Always with the class war.
Always that the class war is the first solution. And the reasoning is that, women perform unwaged labor. True, right? The birthing process is unwaged.
Mhm.
Domestic work, which falls primarily to women, still, that's trending better, but ultimately that's still unwaged. And they were doing, if you look at the working class of women in history, after the move to the cities, what were they doing? They were doing low-wage jobs. Well, they wanted the respect, what they say they want the respect of males, but what they really want is property ownership. They don't want to be doing the low-wage jobs. And this ties into Susan B. Anthony, right? What they wanted to be doing is pawning that off on black people.
Yeah, the black women they forced to work, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There
were laws against black women not working.
Not working for white women. Yes.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you weren't allowed to be a quote unquote housewife.
In the quotes of employers in 2022, 2023, they just didn't want to fucking work.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Same kind of logic going on, right? We need to put these women to work, and we need to be working in roles that allow us to oversee and dictate their work and extract their labor. These aren't they are by no means stupid. They are cruel. That's an important distinction. Stupidity looks like cruelty if you can't fathom the fact that they meant what they were doing, right? Or refuse to fathom the fact they meant what they were doing. So Susan B. Anthony was very honest and naked about her aggression towards the black body. So that puts white womanhood on a special kind of pedestal where the argument goes that they were put upon. But if we look at the lives those women were leading, right? if rich white women and white women of the sort of Susan B. Anthony's class were in a position where they were unduly put upon, how in the fuck did they have time to organize unchecked and go around essentially, Black Lives Mattering it up, right? How did they have the time and the effort and the absolute lack of interference to go around screaming at people until they agreed with them? Right? That's not even bad. Protesting rocks. You shouldn't be
Without
screaming at
getting
people until
beat
they
the
agree.
fuck up or arrested.
Yeah. How in the hell were they able to pull that off without getting sent the hell home? Right? If their place was quote unquote in the kitchen, as the argument goes, or as the mythology goes at least, then why in the hell weren't the cops like, all right, we're just going to beat these broads up and fix this right now? Why is it the cops were forced to tolerate it, and their male class peers were forced to tolerate it, and then essentially give in and cave into the demand, right? Because this is the myth of protesting alone works with a nonviolent aspect. That's where that comes from. It's really no nonviolent protest has ever worked without somebody else doing violence on their behalf. Like let's rip that band-aid off. So why did that work? Right?
Why does the fucking monster, why does fucking capital, why does the big ball of sentient capital, why does it always know when it's time to give them a little tiny W, when it's time to give them a little tiny handout? Like,
I don't think they were given a tiny handout. These are people. Okay, so if we look at their male peers for a moment, their white male peers, these were people who were required to go to an office or go to a work site for multiple hours a day to travel for work, to perform labor. And back then, they did have to perform some level of labor. Certainly not like the CEOs now, where you can just keep pawning that off on a more and more assistants. You did a lot of that shit yourself, and that included going down and screaming in the union manager's face and threatening the Pinkertons, and then going and negotiating with the Pinkertons. They did a lot of the footwork back then, so these were long-ass days screaming and yelling at people and beating them to acquire your money. Right? There was some...
Is it fair to say that this movement was able to just barely, get done, like they barely had this leisure time? Is it fair to say that because it was during a period like right after workers had like unionized and like reclaimed some rights and stuff?
In that instance, you were talking about like the 1890s. This is when they were reclaiming the rights. We're talking about like Henry frickin' shit like that in Pittsburgh. That asshole was in the field.
What year was suffrage?
Suffrage was a little bit later, but their class
Okay,
peers.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, so that's
it was 1920 in the U.S.
I think it was passed in 1920, but the movement started in the 1910s, if my memory serves me correctly. So you have people who are actually going to work, right? As the CEO, they're actually going to work. They can't just run it from a computer screaming into a cell phone. They had to be there, which takes them away from their family and is forcing them to manually extract the capital, if you will. Manually extract the profit, which is kind of critical because then when they went home, who got to dictate how that profit was used? Who's running the household? Now,
who's allowed to have a bank account without permission?
In the society? Men. But I'll give you a better answer to that.
Though.
Married women would have access to their husband's bank account and any family wealth that's doted upon them. They just wouldn't. The barrier they would have is they wouldn't be allowed to own private capital, but they would certainly benefit from private capital. What were those women all doing all day? And the answer was kind of dicking around and drinking. These are wine moms. These are your first wine moms.
So, okay. So the sentient ball of capital only has to extend more rights to a new kind of person. In this case, a white lady in order of who's wealthiest and has the free time first. Okay. So it only has to do that when the original steward of capital is too busy to spend the capital and do stuff with the capital?
Right.
That sounds awful and correct and awful.
So basically, Susan B. Anthony's movement is what ended up with us having Real Housewives of wherever.
Correct. And I'm going to push back on chat. They would be defined by being Miss So-and-so. I agree. However, their existence was still defined by men. Their specific relationship was, this is going to be really daring here, but it was how they related to black men. And specifically, their relationship to black men was that they couldn't directly order them around. They could not directly establish that they were higher than them in the class hierarchy, in the social castes. They were clearly higher than them, but they couldn't actually dictate it.
So the way that any ascending class movement, any kind of ascending struggle, any kind of group of people that think that they're gonna win, they're gonna get it right this time. So the whole thing of them doing that, like at any time that it occurs, is just going to lead back to them establishing a higher place in a pecking order, and like also now they're changed to stewardship of capital. Also, like,
yes,
goddamn, like what
the goal? If you look at it, look at the rhetoric of choice for a moment. And this has been a continuous through line, but look at the rhetoric of choice, and let's start working through what that would mean in 1910, right, in 1920. The idea is that a woman gets to define her own destiny. Fair enough, fine, right? She gets to define herself as a homemaker if she so chooses. Fine. She also gets to define herself as the ownership of capital. It's not because her role was that these poor Mrs. Frick was. Poor Mrs. Frick was forced to toil in the mines while her husband dicked around harassing her secretary. Poor Mrs. Frick was sitting around being a wine mom and got bored and wanted to have her own bank account and ditch Mr. Frick.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing. They wanted the ability to choose. They wanted to have something that, frankly, not even men had in that time. Remember, if you go, you can make the argument, as Chat did, that, well, they were still defined by men. Yeah, but what were men doing? Again, our asses were at work. You were working 16 hours a day, and you better damn well like it, or you'd go starve. Or you'd go fight a war and get shot, and we'll take that attitude right out of you. Remember, women didn't have to do anything.
No one was going to keep you.
Right. That was the idea they were fighting against. Yeah, women do be day drinking. Okay, rich women do be day drinking. Let's be fair. Right? If we're going to take a radical attack, if we're going to be gender critical for a moment, which I am, rich women do be day drinking, Chat.
I mean, for me, like,
and riddle me this, and Chad, before you're like, I don't know, man. Oh, they're still defined by men. Yeah, but I'll tell you who Susan B. Anthony didn't like. The word start. If I were to quote her, I would get kicked off of Twitter. I would get kicked off of YouTube. I can't.
Ooh.
So,
Spicy gamer words.
Yeah, Susan B. Anthony, OG gamer word sayer. So let's not have too much pity for Ms. Anthony and her stance, and let's scrutinize her bullshit for a second. It's not clear cut. We get presented to us in our crappy capitalist narrative that it's a pretty clear cut answer, because liberalism is for that purpose. That's what liberalism today exists to do, is support white feminism in the traditional Susan B. Anthony sense. But if they were going to go real hardcore and they were real brazen about it, it'd be an awful lot of white women saying the N-word out there right now.
Like, it's starting to sound like that I already had to get really sad and feel really defeated by seeing the ascending movements of the recent protests and stuff, like BLM and everything, to see all that be subsumed by capital as if it didn't hurt it at all, but just kind of helped it. Like that hurt me enough. That hurt my little peepees.
Friend, that's a different topic. Save that one for March.
But what you're saying right now is making it sound like that all of the socially progressive movements, that thought that they were out there forging new rights of will and agency for previously oppressed classes. It sounds like all of them have been gobbled up and subsumed by capital and forced over to its will, which is, to commodify everything, including further commodify people and their labor, like to just deputize a new overseer in this bored white lady who was also going to be drunk all the time, to just deputize her to just walk around and point out, who should be, making more. This sounds bad. I gotta say, this is starting to sound eternal and inescapable. through traditional.
Again, I got to get you back on point. We're doing something here, man. We're doing something here. You're correct, but we're doing something here. We're taking down. We're gonna get some rich women's asses right now.
This sounded bad, though.
Yeah.
It is bad.
Oh my God, a discussion on
Yeah.
capitalism is bad. And again, remember, if you feel sympathy for Susan B. Anthony, just have as much sympathy as she had for all those N-words she hated. So, have that much sympathy for her. Show her in kind. The Bible says an eye for an eye. So blind that eye, friend.
So
But what about-
I have some things to input here.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So first question, is that why they love Sotomayor so much? Because I don't know anything too much about her. And the second one,
That's why they liked RBG. Same.
her.
But you guys
Same exact
are
reason.
like big and small, you guys.
So what you're telling me, and I'm summing up here, is you're saying that liberals are stuck at the first wave feminist level of political awareness.
Correct.
Okay, so the conservatives would be more aggressive than that.
1890s.
And
Yeah.
we're basically stuck at 1910 discourse level is what you're saying.
Yeah, and to kind of put the cherry topper
At
on
least
that,
with them.
if you were to look at 1860 material conditions in the South, women were still subordinate, but you also didn't mess with the matriarch of the family. She held a subordinate yet special status over guess who, right? Over the children, over the workers, over the slaves. So that is the gender dynamic most conservatives profess to want to return to, where Ma is clearly subordinate to Pa and all else are subordinate to Ma.
Well, that makes sense why there's not many women there.
Yeah, weirdly enough, right? They're going to take the better appeal. No, we can be Pa too, right?
This
you
sounds
want us to
bad.
still? Yeah, it's bad. It's bad, bro.
And
But if that's true, then that means that the two main political and cultural movements in our country, with the big
That's what he's
parties,
getting at. Yes.
mhm.
it means that both of them are just arguing over who gets to be in charge of extracting what labor, and also you have to do that all day, and your life sucks too. This sounds bad,
Yes.
guys.
It
Yes.
is. They're
This sounds bad.
yeah. Literally interpret as they are. There is a piss fight over who gets to steal from black people directly.
That's not good, you guys. That sounds bad.
It's bad. That's the country we live in, by the way. We're
It's
having
bad
that
for everybody, but they took our jobs.
correct. And also keep in mind, chat. Keep in mind what were poor white women doing back then? Some of them were raising the kids, sure. You know what else though? Some were fucking work because they were working class. This shit didn't apply to them either. Susan B. Anthony made it very clear it didn't apply to poor women. They already had jobs. She was jealous of them. These are also women who got to go to college.
Something like that.
Yeah, well, go start reading around. Like I said, take a cursory review. Just Google Susan B. Anthony and the N-word. See how many quotes you get. It's more than one, and none of it's good.
That's funny because I was looking at her Wikipedia, and the first thing it says is she was anti-slavery.
You can be anti-slavery and still say the N-word and mean it, though. Anti-slavery is not the same thing as anti-racist.
I'm just impressed at the whitewash. Is all I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely, my brother.
It's impressive whitewashing right there.
Bust out the bleach and the white paint. We're gonna make this room spotless.
The whole fucker.
My firmly anti-slavery T-shirt is causing a lot of questions that are answered by my T-shirt.
Yes. So, you have.
It's like your teacher is Darth Sidious.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. We're laughing. We're cracking jokes. But I don't know if that's appropriate, guys. I don't know if we should be joking about this because it sounds like that all energy in the entire country, for the most part, is just arguing over who gets to be a fucking smallhold fiefdom lord over some tiny chunk of a job dude that sucks.
Yeah, but we knew this.
I was gonna say you're acting like that's new information.
He's confirming in words what we already know culturally.
And in other
But you
news,
got-
Ohio is indeed fucked. Um,
yeah.
Oh, Pennsylvania too, buddy.
hey, dude, we're with you.
You're all the whole area is fucked.
That's a good sweet
Did you
Ohio
see
talk
how
there.
big? Did you see how big the area they were showing on those maps was?
It's out to
It was like half
Harrisburg
the
now.
fucking country.
It's out to Harrisburg now on our end. Yeah, it's
That's
insane.
not good.
That's the middle
Oh
of
my
our state.
No.
That's halfway to Philly.
Everybody's in ground zero if ground zero covers the entire United States.
Fact.
Somebody's going to need to organize some guys together to where we can do something about that. But it sounds like you guys. It sounds like from what Dan was saying just now.
I'm not
it
even
kinda
done
sounds
saying
like,
it.
It kind of sounds like that anybody that tries to organize a group of people to do anything about that or anything else under capitalism is going to be subsumed back into capitalism to carry out its will. I'm envisioning I don't know. I'm envisioning two different groups arguing over who gets to be in charge of the poison vacuum slaves.
Yeah,
Right?
guys, I'm gonna need you to
that-
vote Democrat.
Is that where we are? Is that they're going to argue over who is in charge of the poison vacuum company, where they draft children to suck up the poison because they're the
Yeah,
most
'cause
resistant
they're
to
arguing.
it?
They're arguing who's in charge of Norfolk Southern.
Correct. So on the one hand, you have the conservative terror about reproduction and birth rates, right? Relatively modern concern, but a global concern among all conservatives. This is something that has been pushed out by these Christian missionary groups and right-wing networkings globally. You have the tradition under old school feminism that is decidedly anti-black and focused solely on rich white women. Okay? But we don't have an explanation. We don't have an explanation why they're not worried about men. So, what could be the reason they're not worried about men? And this is really, Chad, if you were already being sus, whoa, don't worry. I'm about to set your sus raters off.
Murder.
So
Murder.
if you were a fella,
Murder.
if you were a fella in the working class in the 1800s through the very early 1900s, prior to the World War II, so up to the 30s, what were you realistically doing all day? And the answer is your ass was at work. Your ass is expected to go to work, go to a bar, meet a lady, seduce the lady with all your spare time, get her to marry you, take a few days off to get married, go to work, knock out a couple of kids, leave the wife and kids at home while your ass went to work. You were an engine of capital. Your job was to acquire profit for some rich bastard and his awful broad wife who was out there saying the N-word and talking about how put upon poor white women were while kicking white women in the face.
Now the plot thickens. So you
So-
just described the conservatives.
Aha. So your ass was at work all day while your wife was stuck running the home and running these kids that society told you had to churn out in high numbers. Okay? What were you seen as if you were a rich man? You were seen as the apex of society, right? This is where you get that classic work theory of the leisure class that takes them down a peg and puts the piss on them. But if you were a worker and a male, there's some song and dance about how you ran your household, but you knew that wasn't true. Your ass was at work. You weren't allowed to see your kids. You weren't allowed to do anything. Your ass was working. You were nothing more than a fucking automaton who had the job of going to goddamn work. You were, in a very real sense, beneath rich white women. They ordered you around all day.
Matrix batteries.
Correct. And if they weren't doing the ordering of your ass around, their shitty husbands were. So the value of a man in our society, surprise, surprise, is measured directly off his ability to accrue capital. That's always been true. It has never changed. The metric of a man is always his ability to secure capital.
Dad, they put Susan B. Anthony on a quarter or something. She must have gotten something done. They put her head on a coin.
Well, they sure
She
did.
must have accomplished something. It wasn't just another link in an endless chain leading back to the minting of the first coin that nobody ever accomplishes anything underneath it other than acquiring more of it and being in charge of distributing more of it. And no, we're gonna have a better world. Capitalism is gonna blossom into something beautiful and end of history like. All we have to do is have enough social movements that are based around identity groups, win more rights for those identity groups in order of whose turn it is. That's all we have to do. We're going to win history. It's going to be the end of history. This can't be true.
But Dan, there's so many people that can accrue a lot of capital and be put ahead the white man.
That's right. It could be okay, like because the
Rappers,
more
for
people in markets.
Notice how rappers who get rich, I'm talking about you, Jay-Z, so listen up, try their best to emulate the social mores of rich white men and not the other way around. That's critical. That comes with class. So, men's bodies, if women's bodies are viewed as performing unwaged and reproductive labor, men's bodies, by the same token, are viewed as sources of a point of extraction. They are the machines that conduct extraction of value. So while they may perform waged labor, seeing waged labor as inherently more valuable than unwaged labor is a phenomena of the capitalist. And it's precisely a phenomena of the capitalist because the capitalist directly profits from the man performing the waged labor. But just like his plantation forebears, his profits are derived from somebody doing the unwaged labor, and that's the critical link in the chain. So, the role of the white woman in our shitty society, and I'm going to use the term once and then I'm going to leave it coded, right? The cis white woman, the cis heterosexual white woman has a special role in our society because simultaneously she needs to be tethered to men, because if she's not tethered to men, then you can't coerce her into doing unwaged labor that will enable a man to have profit extracted from him, to have his surplus value stolen. You can't set up the chain of events required to do that. So that status of white womanhood is very, very sacrosanct. The final core part of that plays into point number one.
OnlyFans models are more important than them.
What's that?
OnlyFans models are more important than them
Yes.
under their conception.
Well, OnlyFans models,
That's got to be their issues with it, right? That's the main issue.
they hate OnlyFans models and pornography because those women aren't breeding. Because if we tie it back into point number one, who can perform the unwaged labor in their worldview of producing new white men so that we have new people to extract capital from, and who will perform the service of producing the next generation of white babies so that we can have white daughters who will then go on to produce the generation after that and continue the chain.
I was right in the first place. This is all about the white babies.
It is, right? It is. In part, it is. So, when you tie
Holy
in,
shit, you just clarified something for me.
what's that?
One of the things that I was always resentful about was I couldn't have kids without carrying them.
Right.
If I could just ski, it might have been a different decision. But that was some unwaged labor that I was not prepared to do.
Fair
And how
enough.
many people, and realistically, how many people would sit there and do it? Because that's a lot of labor.
It is a lot of labor.
Well, I mean, there are people that do. They're called surrogates.
Well, surrogates are waged.
Right, but I'm saying, there are people that sign up to like.
Yeah, I knew a girl who was a surrogate, and she had like a bunch of kids for like rich people, and it was interesting because I don't think it would have worked if she was black.
The market is smaller. It's not that it's non-existent, but it's smaller. It would have worked
That's how
to a degree.
That's how she paid her way. She got banked now.
Yeah, she would get banked. She's doing reproductive labor on behalf of a rich woman.
Right.
And
I'm gonna tell you, whatever they paid her was not enough.
no, it
Oh
certainly
no, it
wasn't.
wasn't. I looked, it wasn't. But she was smart with it.
If it was,
Yeah.
if it
She
was,
used it to make the right moves.
if it was, she wouldn't have been a worker. She'd have just been the married woman. She would have just had her own kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way it's going to be of equivalent value. It's because it would have been her fucking kid. Now, if she's doing it for somebody else, clearly they're stealing from her. They got to undercut her. It's a market negotiation. And likewise, she has to undercut them in her calculation that she's getting a good deal enough to do it. That's wage labor. That's reproduction retooled into being waged labor under capitalism.
Right.
Which some people, by the way, some people find that to be the be all end all. I still have a problem with that. I'm going to be naked here. I actually agree.
I mean, for them, the market is always, yeah. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, throw the market into everything. It'll be fine. No, really.
Yeah, no, really.
Yeah. All right. So if we then take those 4 points, right? If we conceive of those 4 points, those big grand historical narratives that I have oversimplified to some degree, right? You have to. We only have an hour. I'm not doing a class on this. I'm not charging you $5 an hour for this, right? So I don't have to get too in depth. But if you condense all those 4 points, now let's take somebody like J.K. Rowling. Let's take somebody like John Cleese. Let's take Turf fucking Island and all their friends here in America, these shitty dirtballs, right? If women previously enjoyed a special status in society where they could all be, if they were rich, wine moms, aka J.K. Rowling could have just been married to Mr. J.K. Rowling, and she had the luxury of just sitting around being a wine mom, dicking around in whatever Greek-style pursuits that she wanted to. And there's nobody threatening that status abstractly or actually. Does J.K. Rowling bother to say any of that shit that she said? I'm going to contend with no. She doesn't.
There's never in a million years. Never in a million years. In that universe, his stupid ass had to write the books.
Right. He would write the books down. He would get all the credit.
Jesus Christ.
That's right. She would have all the time in the world to come up with that shit. He would slap his name on it and throw it out there because that's what they used to do all the time.
Good.
As an aside, not connected to anything. J.K. Rowling looks super intensely sad. Like the most successful sad person.
all of the time, those eyes look like they're about to cry.
He looks dead inside.
Yes, that is somebody who does not know what to do with her position in society, so she's taking it out on trans people. Absolutely. But the sentiments she expresses are derived directly from first wave feminism and the culture of the white woman in this world, right? What that attitude towards trans women expresses is the idea, and work through this for a second, because before, the rich white woman didn't have to work, could piss around drinking wine all day. When she chose to work, she could launder it through her husband and make his ass do even more work. And she could dictate down to anybody what she wanted. She could rain violence on anybody she wanted. If you don't believe that, look at the Emmett Till killing. That was a rich white woman raining down violence upon a black body without ever having to lift a fucking finger. Who did the work? White men. Because they had to. That relationship of dependency is not a clear dependency. When you chat, when you throw out the classic feminist line, she had to define herself in relationship to men. Look at women in the South. Some of them like it because some of them have picked up the plot. I don't have to do shit but be a fucking Karen all day, and I get to do whatever the fuck I want. And when society doesn't act the way I want, I am entitled to enact some sort of violence against other people. And I get to launder it through men, so I still come off looking like a fucking saint.
And it's not limited to the South.
No, but that's where you find the most anti-abortion attitude in white women. That makes up about half of the white women opposed to abortion, the Southeast. And the Karen phenomena is a phenomenon across all the United States. But the Karen is in the same
but I'm
family
thinking,
of behaviors.
because to me what you're describing is like a traditional like Philly Irish or Italian family.
Now, not funny enough, not in 1910. In 1910, that woman was running her household, and if that man came home drunker with another woman's lipstick on his collar, he was getting an ass whooping.
True. Well,
Because-
and still, like, yeah, that true. Yeah,
because
no, it hadn't evolved into like the stereotypical like Sopranos shit.
Right. That's actually a really excellent point. The idea that rich trans women tend to have. This is your Caitlyn Jenner types. I want to be very clear who I'm about to punch in the face. And your rich, awful housewives of Atlanta and shit like that. Carmela Soprano is a good stand-in for the behaviors they want to see modeled, right? Where they get to dictate in this household, they get to fucking terrorize everybody, and they get to be a genuine piece of shit, but the piece of shit status is laundered through the awful husband who has the job of doing all the fucking dirty work. That is the dream that Caitlyn Jenner is aspiring for, and that is the dream of so many rich white women like J.K. Rowling. To be able to go and dominate and be a piece of shit in the market and yet still have a man to launder all of that through. The current material relations don't allow you to really pull that off. To some extent they still do, but not as much as these people want. That's pretty self-evident. There's a lot of resentment. And there's a lot of inter-class resentment against trans women specifically. Look at how they treat Caitlyn Jenner. And a lot of their class subordinates are also on that side because the idea of that matriarchal white woman who is only subservient to the patriarch.
You're making me think. You're making me think of like
that wide
conservative, like rich conservative women like that I know down here, and rich conservative women that you see in the media. You're seeing like a liberal streak kind of start to come out, like where
is liberal though?
Is this why that is though? Like, okay, Gavin McInnes' wife was pissed off that when they finally got rich enough to move into the ritzy neighborhood, everyone didn't want to hang around with the Proud Boys couple, right? She was pissed off at him. She made him quit the Proud Boys. They've become more decent. Okay, like down here you get longtime theater patronage from rich conservative white women. Like they're not for the gays, but they do want to enjoy the gays' performances.
Because look at the role in that though, right? They're patrons of the arts because the gays are there to sing and dance for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's two reasons you see a lot of white kids at rapper concerts. One, whites have the money to go to concerts. Clearly, black people don't. That's a problem. The other one is everybody loves it when the subordinate race or the subordinate person has to sing and dance for you. It's very amusing. It's degrading to some degree. So yeah, you're absolutely seeing what you may accidentally call a liberal impulse. I don't think it's a liberal impulse. I think it's a very conservative impulse. The idea was that is their place in society, and if they don't like it, they can go eat shit from a fucking white man bringing his boot.
Bring out the dancing girls.
Bring out the dancing girls. Yeah. You can subordinate them in that way. You can subordinate, there are a lot of women. All I'm saying is this. Those showgirl shows in Vegas, there's a lot of straight white women there. And getting a kick out of it too. And the reason that is, in my mind, is because they know that positioning, they're better than them. They may not be seen as genuine 100% equals interclass, but when viewed from the lesser classes, are you going to tell the cops that Mackenzie Bezos is lying about the when she says you raped her? Are you going to pull that off? You got a good enough lawyer for that, fella? You think you're getting away with that one? Hell no. Mackenzie wants you in jail. You raped her. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're losing that fight if you're poor. You might win it if you're Jeff Bezos, but you're losing that fight if you're fucking poor. The Harvey Weinstein situation is an interclass unification to get rid of one bad actor, and notice how fucking rare that was.
I wonder what's going on with the Me Too movement. They're still out there busting weirdos, right? They haven't been subsumed by capital, have they?
Yeah, they have. They have.
I bought all these decorations, man. I bought all these fucking big banners that say end of history. I got a cake that says end of history on it.
Yeah,
God
fella.
damn it.
We'll talk, like I said, in March, we'll talk about what the end of history looks like and what we live in and how they're different. I promise you that. But we're being gender critical right now. So, in terms of the bad
I
news,
see what you're talking about. I see what you did.
see what I did there?
I see
So,
what you did.
so let's go back to why don't they hate trans men? And the short answer is, of course they hate trans men. Because there are a good bit of trans men who are still sexually attracted to men or non-binaries. These are men who no longer have feminine reproductive capabilities, and they are uh, men who are come in all different races. So they get racial hatred. Of course they hate them. But the reason they don't attack them on their trans status is if I told you we're going to add more to the potential exploitive labor pool that does, based on our shitty gender divisions, the bulk of the heavy labor and thus produces the bulk of the value to be extracted. If I told you we found a way to add more to that pool without having to have any babies, are you really gonna bitch? If your goal is to get into a position where you get to extract capital from people, are you going to bitch about more potential capital on the table, or is it going to make you fight harder to keep your status sacrosanct? Because they are, and I'm going to be extremely clear about this, there's a reason they hate Caitlyn, despite Caitlyn having the exact same fucking dreams as them. Caitlyn is an existential threat because that's a white man who, in their eyes, could be fucking a white man who is not going to produce capital for them, and she was dishonest about it. Because in their minds, she's still Bruce. And Bruce is a fucking liar.
Yeah.
Bruce is pretending to have the thing that J.K. Rowling has, and J.K. Rowling isn't attracting those men. She's not able to secure her hierarchical position over a man of her class and her stature.
I mean,
But
to
Caitlyn
be
out
wealthy,
there getting the yogurt.
To be wealthy in America is truly just an incredible situation. I mean, this is an individual who, lived the unique experience that some people live on this earth where they, for some period of time, exist outwardly as one or the other gender. This is a unique experience. Some people on earth have this happen to them. Not everybody does. But if you're rich and it happens to you, the two distinct people that you've existed as are both uniquely terrible in so many dramatic and opposite ways, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's stunning. Like, it's a country where, you can lead so many lives, and if you're rich, all of them just a different villain. Just an incredible monster,
The flavor of awful is amazing. The menu is just mwah, it's huge. Now,
It's just beautiful.
I'm gonna go a step farther, right? Here's yet another reason Dan hates anarchists. Mark that down because I didn't leave them out of this. The anarchist, the liberal, and the libertarian see the institution as an abomination because the institution represents the monarch, and they're still obsessed with killing the monarch, who, by the way, I don't know if you know this, he's dead. The king they are fighting died 200 years ago. That fucker is deader than disco. We don't have to worry about King George anymore. But in their minds, they are all still fighting King George, and the institution is a stand-in for King George. Okay? They have that severe individualist streak is corrosive to the notion of the family, to the notion of furthering society past the current generation, and corrosive to societal bonds holding just in the current generation. Because when you're that rampantly obsessed with it, you cannot think beyond your own selfish desires. No matter how altruistic you think you are, you can't do it. You're not programmed to. It's not in you. You have a different value set. So they can't think beyond that. And the two things that are offered are a type of corrosive existence that rips through families, that rips through churches, companies, every institution, social welfare, maintenance work, and lets it corrode and fall apart. And the opposition to that is the old guard, where it's the patriarch, the matriarch, and the dirt beneath their feet, and then the workers who extract the wealth from that dirt. Those are the options that we are presented with in society. The third option is that of fascism, where that conservative hierarchy is enshrined and moved into every facet of your fucking life. And it becomes another stifling mind prison that encourages just an absolute wave of brutal violence.
Dude,
And-
you're saying that if you don't like either the puke sandwich or the cum sandwich, the third option is a shit sandwich. Dad, this sounds bad.
Well, now I'm gonna finally give you the good. I'm gonna finally give you the good news.
At least you got a sandwich.
At least
He's
you got
got the gospel.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Always fucking bitching. All we do is bring you good sandwiches.
yeah. Jesus,
Or
come on, man.
sandwiches.
Dude. You can turn water into wine. I don't want to hear about the fucking sandwich. All right, you can fix it. Anywho, the fourth option then, and I'm going to end it on a positive note, is the route of the Marxist feminist, who analyzes the material conditions and analyzes the actual logistical fucking needs and looks at the horizontal, preserving society as it is, and the vertical, right? Continuing society into the future. The Marxist feminist proposition starts off with the simple notion that somebody got to be raising those goddamn kids. That's a responsibility you can't get out of. If you have children, somebody's got to raise those goddamn kids. Note that we
You
don't
can
care
raise
who
them.
does it. Note that the Marxist does not care which parent does it. We don't care about that baseline family structure. We care that there is a family structure that can raise them goddamn kids. 2 dads, 2 moms, mom and dad. I don't give a fuck. Somebody needs to be raising those goddamn kids out of those pairings. It's just going to have to happen. That kid's going to have to get somebody go watch that goddamn kid. So you have to create a societal existence that meets 2 criteria. One, somebody got to raise that goddamn kid. The other is it cannot be gender oppressive like the fascist or the conservative. And it cannot, I take that back. There are 3 criteria. The third criteria is it cannot be as trivialized and corroded as the liberal version of the institution. We're going to have a new way so that those kids get reared, society fucking flourishes and continues on. We have the human labor and the human bodies we need in society, right? We're not all altruistic. We need those bodies. Those bodies are what keeps us protected when we're old. Those bodies participate in society now and gives us new ideas and new fucking ways of doing things and new cultural artifacts and phenomena and so on that are interesting and entertain us. And they give us another place where we can have new human interactions, possibly make new friends, new mentees, new mentors in some instances, right? Sometimes those little bastards are geniuses and you learn something from them. New people to compete in sports, new people to compete in games, all sorts of things. The new brings something good intrinsically, but we're going to need those people around to do it. So the family is an unavoidable consequence. But we don't have to view it as an unavoidable consequence like the fucking liberals do, and it's something to try to be abolished or regulated to the market. And we don't have to have it structured where it's an inevitable consequence that puts you in a hierarchical position that defines your entire life. But that work still has to get done. The Marxist is always, ethically speaking, we are always worried about the work getting done.
Mm-hmm.
So that type of feminism certainly does not condone the feminism of Susan B. Anthony. It certainly doesn't condone the modern feminism of the TERF. And it certainly doesn't condone the conservative feminist, who's only worried about the reproduction of whiteness. All of those things are caustic. And it certainly doesn't fucking concern itself with the fascist feminist, who's only worried about shooting as many people as she can. That woman can die in a ditch. I don't give a shit about her. She's a fucking murderer.
Say that.
Well, I said it. But that notion of Marxist feminism starts with an analysis of those material conditions. Those economic needs need to be met. They need to be controlled for, and we need to have a social arrangement that allows for somebody to be caring for those fucking kids and some way to make sure those kids have that external input, right? That capital coming in so those kids can thrive. And some kind of notion of time spent with those kids so the value, the quality of the parenting does increase. the quality of the family relationship increases so that it is not merely a pathetic business transaction, it's not forged out of selfish desires, and it's not a representation of patriarchal power. Yeah, you know what though? I agree. Like when I'm playing in a Magic tournament, I need to know who won the Magic tournament, Jordan Peterson. You're right, you got my ass. But hierarchies are also bad sometimes.
What? No way.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson says, hierarchies are good sometimes, like when the puppeteer puts his hand up my ass and makes me talk in a Kermit voice about Jesus and cry a bunch. But again, like hierarchies are great when you're talking about a fucking tournament structure. And I'll be frank, a hierarchy works in a household. You don't want a 4-year-old parenting. You don't want the 4-year-old to be the primary caretaker of a household. There is no situation where that's a good thing. That's evidence of the parents fucking up. And it doesn't have to be directly their fault. I'm going to argue most things under capitalism aren't directly their fault. Unless they're libertarians, then everything's their fault. But they're pedophiles, so I don't have to fucking worry about their feelings. So where you want those hierarchies, i.e. keeping the household in order and having somebody parent, being able to resolve a conflict in a sports game, who fucking won, and being able to respect the person who declares somebody the winner, right? Those are minor hierarchies that are good. What we don't want is the fascist hierarchy. That's what Chomsky says to be serious, just hierarchy structure. Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't hate Chomsky though, so I'm not like the other Maoists and shit. Still a Maoist, but I don't hate Chomsky. He's right about that. Some of that structure is good. Like again, I'm going to reiterate the 2 points because they're kind of ironclad. You need to know who won the football game, and you need somebody to raise the fucking kids. When you're running a classroom, you need some kind of central authority to run the fucking classroom. That doesn't have to be a tyrannical authority. Somebody has to be the foreman on the job to take responsibility if the goddamn bridge collapses. These are minor things, but we don't. Again, it doesn't have to be grounded in patriarchy. It doesn't have to be grounded in fucking crushing black people under our feet. It doesn't have to be fucking grounded in making womanhood some sort of pseudo-mythological status that makes it a brokerable fucking marketable thing. We don't have to do all that. That's the kind of hierarchy that's shit. Jordan Peterson's like, oh, that's fine. That works for some people, sure. Again, 50% of women hated abortion. Discuss. Work that through. That's not a narrative you get in mainstream media. God knows even left-wing media. TYT's like, can you believe there are women against abortion? Yeah. Fucking 50% of them are.
That's a lot of them.
That's a lot. That's literally half. Your
right.
narrative.
Well, when you know that that's your real commodity, it's not your tits or your ass. You want to protect that, right?
That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is if your status in society is sacrosanct based upon your reproductive capacity, and there is an involuntary way to end that in the abstract, somebody else doing it devalues you.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You're worth less on the market. When it comes down to it.
In an abstract sense, yeah. I mean, you're talking more about direct material. I'm talking more about abstract, but these people operate in a fucking fantasy world, so... the other part of it is like let's be cold about it. In their conception, that reproductive act is the beginning of life. Hands full stop. Just to them, that's what it is, right? That's what they say. That's what they mean. They actually do mean that. We just can't get around it. They're not being cynical. They actually mean that. So in that instance, what you are permitting is murder. What you are permitting is murder. And if you look at the documentary was Hate Thy Neighbor. Great documentary from Vice. Excellent one. There's a white supremacist who comes out and says, he's like, I'm definitely for black abortion, yeah. And then when asked, so you're against white abortion, he's absolutely. Why? The why is not spoken. He refuses to elaborate why, but you can infer why. It's because white life is valuable. You can't eradicate any of those. We can rearrange society to take care of that white life. We don't need the rest. He's a racist. The guy in there is a racist. So of course that's what he believes. Of course that's what he fucking portends.
You're a Nazi.
If and work through that for a second, right? If they see that as an act of murder, it's a devaluance of white life. It's a devaluance of white life. It's a devaluance of their lives and their loved ones' lives and their fucking worth in society. That's a twofold hit. There's a reason 50% of them hate it. They skew rich, unsurprising, and they skew towards kind of shitty people. But they're not irrational. They have a reasoning. Maybe the base reasoning is irrational. I personally don't find their lives all that worthwhile. I would like to see the social relations that creates those people eradicated so they can never exist again. But from their perspective, you remember how I talked about a while back, chat? Remember how I talked about, like, you have to be able to see things from their perspective when you make your attack, and that's why you can't be afraid to make certain attacks?
Mm-hmm.
Bingo, this is it. They see that as a devaluance of white life. We're going to have to make the normative claim then that, yeah, that particular lifestyle is kind of irrelevant. It doesn't need to be and oughtn't be. Your life is worth less. The claim they make on other people, we're going to have to make on them. We're going to have to look a little bit misanthropic to do it. That's okay. We're going to have to redefine life. That's all. No pressure.
Yeah. And like,
It sounds really bad.
Yeah.
It sounds really bad. No.
What makes a life worth living?
That is a question for another day because it is 11:49.
But just like in the that guy that took his head off recently before he went to court on the fentanyl charges.
Yeah.
I made the comment, "Oh, trash taking itself out."
Correct.
And then I made the comment like, kind of too bad he didn't take the wife with him. And while I don't condone family annihilation in, mostly I think that's a bad idea. But when it really comes down to it, I don't see the ethical problem with that one going on the books. I don't.
Listen, I always did agree. People always get mad at me. How can you agree with Hitler? Well, I agree with his shoot Hitler in the face policy. So, call me a Nazi sympathizer there, but I'm very sympathetic to Hitler's stance of shooting Hitler. So,
yeah.
I'm not. If Hitler were alive today, there is a liberal movement that would be like first off, they would have to call everybody a Mussolini, right? If it were alive today, so they would lose their big insult. They would have to downgrade to Mussolini, the giant chin man, and the bald chin man. Like, that's not as impressive as the mustache angry man. And second off, there would be, because of his fervent love of capitalism, he would be received fervently. He would be received better than Modi, and it's entirely in the fact that Modi's brown.
So it would be a Mussolini rehabilitation tour in about 1960.
Yeah, and the situation for the Turks in Germany right now would be goddamn gruesome, and we would turn a blind eye to it. The poor Turks who go to Germany would be absolutely being fucking slaughtered and enslaved, and we would be like, we would scold them. To be sure, we would scold them, but we wouldn't try very hard to get them liberated.
Yeah, this is just terrible. You've ruined Margaret Atwood's delightful Handmaid's Tale for me, and then you went on to explain that my racist chud neighbors, that even their beloved hatred of black people is just an effect that's cast upon them to sort bodies for use by capitalism.
We got 9 minutes. We got 9 minutes.
This is just this is just hurting my feelings. This is hurting my feelings really bad. All
right. Well, here, let me do a hot take right now. Ready? I'm gonna Zizek that shit. The show is shit. The show is just Susan B. Anthony feminism. which pass. The book itself actually posits something really interesting. By the way, I've never read it, and the book itself posits something really interesting. It is a giant critique and a brutal critique of conservatism and the brutality of the patriarch matriarch system.
But how did currently existing streaming media possibly transform such a good thing into something so boring and liberal? That's impossible.
They did it by showing the ending, if you will. So in the book, right? In the book, we jump from the absolute terrorism wrought on the working class white woman, and just the incredible amount of sexual and violence inflicted upon her by white men, and the absolute lack of black characters in that was not a racist act on her part. What she says without saying is the extermination of the black race in America, right? Which is the ultimate goal for this matriarchal and patriarchal fucking arrangement. But Atwood notably never actually says how we get out of that. Well, Kanye doesn't. I'm sorry, sweetie. I just said it. Kanye gets eradicated. There's no Kanye. His mom doesn't make it. We get Susan B. Anthony feminism.
It sounds like they cut some really important stuff. This is like when they wouldn't let Anthony Hopkins breastfeed at the end of Hannibal.
She did, and the reason Atwood does that is because she wants you to implicitly understand, in my opinion, more of a materialist critique of the situation. She wants you to go down that materialist route, but of course the era she's writing is violently anti-communist, anti-socialist, and anti-revolutionary. Violently so. I know, but it's funny to me, right? It's funny to answer that way, so that's why I did that chat. So, Atwood leaves that kind of open for you to think of in revolutionary space. She wants you to think of an avenue where that's not the outcome. If you're a woman, how to prevent it, and if you're a man, how to prevent it. Which is based, right? It's base shit. The problem with the TV show is it shows you how it's overthrown, and it's overthrown by these enslaved white women through violence against the state. When the premise to the show is that the violence of the state has been arranged in such a way that these are the exact white women who are captured with no way out of the mind palace. This show is like the Marxist version of Masterclass. No, I'm not that good, man. I'm a dumb guy, honestly. I really am dumb. I just say the things that your brain knows but doesn't know it knows.
Hey, wait! If it's a Marxist version of Masterclass, we should be getting subscriptions.
We should. We're not going to. We're not going to. I'm not. I don't overblow my doctorate is a joke primarily, right? That's the real secret of it all. It's a joke for me. And I
forgot about that.
Yeah,
I still got to do that.
We still do.
We'll do that later. We'll do that later.
When we finally accrue enough capital from doing the show, we'll buy everybody doctorates. That'll be the first thing. The four of you will get doctorates. But yeah, fuck you. That's what makes for a good masterclass. My bad. All right, chat. Damn, sorry. I subscribe to your ideology. Thank you. It's just observation and calling bullshit, and not being afraid to call bullshit. Those are the two only things I do. So, again, I didn't read Atwood's work, but that's what I've taken away from what I've read around Atwood's work, and specifically in negation of how the liberals interpret it. So Atwood's work, based, worth reading, good one. I know we're plugging a white author in Black History Month, so like sketchy waters, but honestly, based. The show, shit. The show's shit. The show's terrible. It's fucking awful. It's just more girl boss bullshit. It's like they try to posit that Hillary
and torture porn. Don't forget the torture porn.
Well, yeah, that's what girl bosses love torture porn. They're really into BDSM. It's a whole fucked up thing. Yeah, girl bosses are awful. They're fucking terrible.
I wrote a crime podcast.
Girl bosses are like black cops. Is what I'm saying.
God.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. That's a very good way of putting it. They're like black cops. It's just disgusting on every level.
I wrote all these true crime podcasts. I was going to make all this money. Now you're making me feel guilty about that.
No, do it.
I don't want to sell the torture pornography to the right.
Do it. I'll help you with that. I can do voices for that one.
They listen to it like 16 hours a day, man.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
How's that go? It hurts. Stop. It's painful.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's again, that's why I can't stress, like, we are going to be gender critical. The rich white woman is something to be very critical of. The working class white woman is always going to be our ally, even if she's saying some fucked up shit, because she probably doesn't know better. You've lived in capitalism too. You can remember when you had stupid ideas like Obama was good for this country.
Oh yeah,
So
that was
if
rough.
you see if you see a lady that looks like Roseanne, the TV character from the '90s, she's your friend. But if you see a lady that looks like real life Roseanne, she's your enemy.
She is your class fucking enemy. Thank you. On fucking sight. It is self-defense.
It's
You
true
put those
though.
two
It's
pictures-
true though. It's true though. It was different.
you put those two pictures
Yeah.
of the same lady next to each other, and it's just like friend enemy. Okay, there you go. It's that
Like
simple.
how? You just turned to the dark side. Damn it.
Yeah, and it is rough, but there is ideological space still. Capital, and this is part of the trap of capitalism. I won't go into too much on this because again, we're ending in 2 minutes. There is ideological space under capitalism for its opposition to exist, but that doesn't mean that the opposition is controlled. It just means it exists under capitalism. That's one of the pitfalls of liberalism, that it allows for its own destructive mechanisms and anti thing to exist. As much as that is a strength for them because they can steel themselves and practice against it, it also leaves the space for its own destruction. We saw that in Germany pre-war. We saw that in Russia pre-war. In both instances, two anti-liberalism forces of completely different origin went toe-to-toe against liberalism and came out on top. It happened in Italy. It happened in China. It happened in Cuba. It happened in Turkey, frankly. So just because liberalism this is the one thing we tend to forget, just because liberalism makes space for its own negation does not mean that it cannot be negated. It just means it's warming up the fight and practicing against it. But that doesn't mean it's beatable. If you're a Magic the Gathering nerd, even Louis Scott Vargas loses matches, and he's a goddamn good player. Kai Boot has lost a match before, and he's the greatest player ever to play the game. Everybody can be beaten. If the space for competition exists,
Negated.
that's right. If there's a space for competition, it can be defeated.
And then the primary contradiction makes way for a secondary contradiction once the other one is subsumed.
Well, yeah, again, that sounds like March content, though.
Yeah.
Spoilers! Dan might actually be preparing. For once in his life. So, all right, we are the Sons of Trier. Again, I was joined by Jank Engels.
Night, America.
I was joined by Michael Jordan Peterson.
Oh,
I was joined by the True Horror, who I think left.
He's on mute.
Remember, he's at the factory.
He's rubbing his wiener. He's on mute. Fair enough. And I was joined by Juniper Nest.
It was an awesome night. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being here. We love you, America. Do not die. If we had